Hi, this is David Rice. I have a Substack called Hit Christian. You can find me in a few different places. Missouri Liberty Radio is one of the places I'm most proud to be at. You can find me on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. I'm also here with Gretchen Garrity. She has Right to Win Ozarks. That's her blog. And I'm also with Cynthia Haggard from Vernon County and with Linda Rance from Cause of America. We're talking about a really important issue, and this has been an important issue in the state of Missouri for quite a while, over a decade, really. But it's this issue of lawfare in Missouri politics, where they try to come in and change the rules and use those rules that are broken, that they have broken, to change how, most recently, delegates are appointed at the Republican National Convention, or change how the platform is appointed at the Missouri the let's see, May 4th, was that the May 4th meeting?
Mhm. The
And
state
so
convention.
the state convention, thank you. And so there was a Towgate incident, and I'll call that incident. And so there was that. And so they have been using lawfare, rule fair against the grassroots for a very long time. And so we're going to get into that. But Cynthia, there was a reorganization, and I was hoping you could talk to us about this recent reorganization of the Central Committee and what that looks like in layman's terms for people who don't really understand what a Central Committee is, or even how to even get involved in a Central Committee.
Yeah, sure. The central committees are the basic beginning level of the GOP hierarchy. So they are the county committees that are in all 114 counties in Missouri and the city of St. Louis. So every 2 years, they go through reorganization. That's what it's called.
Okay.
It amounts to people filing for office. They file on the primary ballot just like any other candidate would. In some of the counties, depending on the county size, if you are the only person filing, you don't appear on the ballot. In some of the bigger counties, you're on the ballot whether you're the sole filer or not. So it's possible that you might win your election just by filing and no one has opposed you. If you have more than one person filing for the same position, then you're on the primary ballot. Voters go out and vote for you. And the qualified people who win those elections become the members of the county committee going forward for the next 2 years, or in St. Louis County and City the next 4 years. In St. Louis County and City, they run every gubernatorial cycle. In the rest of the counties, they run every primary cycle. So 2 years versus 4 years. So
Okay.
that's the basics.
So that's the basic. So you do this reorganization process every 2 years. Is that right?
Every 2 years for most of the counties.
Okay. So it's just standard procedure, but recently, there's been a change in the way we've been trying to appoint, especially local elected officials in our counties. And we've been trying to hold them accountable through a process we call vetting, but it's really just to say you're qualified to be a Republican. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Sure. REPAC-MO is the organization that we formed to oversee the vetting process. We have a problem. We have a RINO problem in Missouri. We have a lot of what Denny Hoskins calls campaign conservatives who run as Republicans during the primary, and then they forget that that's what they ran as. Once they get elected and they run in office, they operate as Democrats. So a group of us 2 years ago decided that we needed to do something to take back our party's values, and vetting is what evolved. So vetting really amounts to going through, for most people, a values survey, 25 questions that are scenarios that come from the Republican Party platform, and 5 possible responses. You choose the response that best fits your values. So 2 of those responses are based on the Republican Party platform, and 3 of them are based on other parties' platforms. So if you get at least 70% of those questions right, and by right, I mean they agree with the Republican Party platform, then you've passed the survey, 70% or above. So it's not a situation we've been accused of, if you miss one question, you're out. We've vetted close to 400 people, nobody has gotten 100%. The 80 percentile range from 80 to 89 is where most people fall. None of us agree 100%. So we
Sure.
implemented that process as a mandatory procedure in Vernon County, as have some other counties. And then there are counties that did it as an optional thing. Statewide, we vetted close to 400 individuals at this point.
So, and it's not if it's above local counties, so county commissioner, things like that would be one of the things you would vet. But if it's your local rep, if it's a state rep, all of those are volunteer because you can't really hold any of those people responsible through the vetting process. Is that right?
Yeah, the problem is we thought we would be able to do this as a mandatory situation throughout the Republican Party in Missouri. So from the county level, the committee level, right on up to state and federal offices. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, the establishment GOP machine wanted nothing to do with vetting. And since they take the person who takes your filing fees really controls what's going on. So at the county level, the county committee treasurer takes the filing fees. So we're the gatekeeper. We can say, no, we don't want your fees. We're sending them back to you. You're not going to be on our ballot. You didn't go through the vetting process, or you didn't successfully go through it. At the state level, it's the state committee treasurer that takes the filing fee. And because of our state chair, who single-handedly, arbitrarily, all by himself said, no, we will not be involved in vetting, we had no choice but to make state and federal candidates an optional, voluntary situation.
Well, unfortunately, though, your there was a bypass of that, though. So a lot of the county clerks decided that they would help many of the Republican candidates bypass the central committees. And so we had an uprising of sorts in many of the elections. And I know Wright County, for example, was one of the hotly contested places. I spoke with many of the individuals. I won't name their names because, it's been really hard for them. But it was a very difficult time for those individuals being called all kinds of names like fascists, Nazis, um, dictators, communists, suppressors, all because they just wanted to make sure that the people who are running in the local elections were actually Republicans.
Yeah, that's the thing. Vernon County has been ground zero for vetting. So
Yeah,
all the names that are being called, and people are being called in Wright County, you can multiply that by 100 in Vernon County. They've been so vicious and ugly. And
yeah,
all over the fact that a group of incumbents don't want to show you that they're an actual Republican.
yeah,
We knew when we went into this that we would be revealing the RINOs. The challengers had no problem taking them, most of them taking the survey.
mm,
Our challenger for the sheriff's position, who is a chief deputy sheriff now, had no problem with it. Statewide, people like Rick Bratton, Bill Eigel, Will Scharf, we had a lot of people that were willing to vet. But yeah, at the county level, their whole rallying cry in Vernon County was let the voters be the vetters. Well, the Republican Party owns the Republican Party primary ballot. So it is the duty and responsibility of the Republican Party to make sure that when you go into the voting booth and you pick a Republican Party ballot, that the people on it are actually Republicans. Voters assume that, and that's not necessarily the case. So once we have done the initial decision making and evaluating to determine who we want on our ballot that we own, then it is the voters who do the additional vetting and make the decisions as to which candidates they want for positions. Uh,
like, except when the clerks decided that they could make just
and the clerks,
bypass.
yeah, so the clerks came in. Our clerk knew that we always took the filing fees, and in September she said, "I'll do whatever you want me to do. I know that's what you do." She worked for
Mm,
the county clerk's office for a year and a half before she ran to be the clerk. Then
yeah,
they went to their little county clerk conference and they came back with marching orders. So you have to
yeah.
wonder who the County Clerks Association is also involved with, that suddenly this was a big deal. And they were all told, if a candidate wants to give you money, you shall take it and you shall go ahead and file the fee, the candidacy, and then forward the money to the committee treasurer. But don't leave any space in there where the party can actually say yes or no. Make us take you to court. And that's exactly what we told our clerk we would do. If you don't give us the opportunity to exercise our First Amendment right of political association, vetting or not vetting. We filed suit against her, and we would have done that had we not been vetting at all, because you put us in a position where you, a government official, are telling a political party who will and will not be on our ballot, and that cannot stand.
So I want to circle back around to that later, but there's this top down, and I don't know, Gretchen, if you wanted to step in, but there's this top
Well,
down. Go ahead for
yeah.
Gretchen.
So Linda, you noticed something this morning or last night, um, that the state committee was doing with their, I guess, rules for submitting reorganization papers. Can you speak to that and get us kind of up to speed on why there is a big issue right now with the state GOP and the central committees?
Right. So thank you. And thanks for having me, both of you. So here's the thing, words matter. Words matter. I have a legal background. I'm not a lawyer, but words matter. You can't read something. It's just like when you download an app to your phone and it says, here's the terms and conditions, and you go, yeah, I accept, and you don't read it.
Do you
You
mind
have
if I
no
share,
idea.
Linda?
What's that?
Do you mind if I go and share the screen for that?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Sure. So we received in our committee, so I'm in Osage County, and we received instructions from the state committee, the state Republican committee, on how to submit the reorganization details. So Cindy explained it. One of the primary things in statute when you reorganize is that you elect your officers for the next 2 years. And so that's always been something that's done. And there is a reasonable reason why you would let the state know who was elected as officers. But this year they were touting that they had a new portal. And I, kind of got a spidey sense about it because this has not been a very organized state committee in any
Right.
respect. Yeah.
It's
Well,
inept on purpose.
yeah. And that they were all excited about a portal made me nervous. So I went and looked at it, actually, I think about 2 days ago or something. And I read the words because that's what I do. And underlined, if you're looking at the screen, it says you submit your list of officers, whether it's from the county level or legislative, all the other levels we have. And upon successful receipt, you will receive an email certifying your newly elected officers, not confirming, not acknowledging that we received it, but certifying. That's an important word because in a legal term, that is giving them permission to review your list of officers and decide if they are going to agree with you or not. Now, most people are like, again, pushing through on the app, like it probably doesn't matter, just put it in there. They're not going to say anything. Why would they say anything to us? But it is a big deal. I'll let Cynthia explain what came from them. But the other part that's important in this document, and I'm not sure if it's on this one, but I read in the rest of their instructions, you must also take your bylaws.
Is it on this one?
Yes.
No. Oh,
it
yeah.
does say that. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to, I'm sorry, it's not on that one, David, but I'll jump to that one in a second then. But you must also take your bylaws because in a reorganization, they give you a 60-day window in statute to amend your bylaws without having to go through a lot of work that you would any other time of that, 2-year period until the next election. So it's a time that a lot of people push through some amendments to their bylaws. So they said, submit them. And they have said that in the past, submit your bylaws so that we have them on file. Again, it's nice to do it to them, but there's no right to it. And our bylaws specifically say that our county, that is our documentation, and we will, as a committee, decide who gets to look at it. But they said submit it, and they will let you know if they are approved. They are going to review bylaws. And I will just say, okay, this is the power grab. This is the power grab because they are saying you're going to send it in. Now, look, it's not in the state bylaws that gives them the power. It's not in statutes. I know these statutes. It's not there. Nothing gives them a power. And then even if they did, they would have to do it at a meeting of the state committee, and they would have to go through and amend the state bylaws to get the power to do this. This has not been done by the state committee. There's nothing that came from them. This is a unilateral action, most likely, and I don't know for sure, but most likely by the state chair with what I would term a bunch of swamp lawyers who are behind him.
Like
And I don't know their names, but they're the ones who give him advice on it. Because look, everything that comes out from them, look, my first job in a law office was in 1978. I speak legalese. When you get a letter from a lawyer, a personal letter from a lawyer saying, hi, I'm new on the committee, And I'm just writing to you from my personal account, but you send it on your firm's stationery, just like they did with the delegates to the RNC. They're doing exactly the same thing. That intimidates most people. Doesn't intimidate me because I know the trick, but most people are like, oh my gosh, a lawyer, legal fees, I better just not do anything. This is a power grab. And if you submit your, in my opinion, not a lawyer, just an opinion, layperson, you submit your list of officers on this portal with that word certifying there, you're basically affirming that they have the right to certify. Cindy, I can tell you more. Go ahead.
So that was my question. So this is basically giving them permission to do the certification. You're basically saying that they do have the legal right to certify if you submit.
And well, and so isn't this also saying they could say, oh, well, we don't like that person is not certified or that person is not qualified. Therefore, you're going to have to go back and choose someone else or, whatever, however they think they're going to do it.
They can, so those, remember, this now comes back around to vetting. And the document that we had from the state chair back in November of last year has a paragraph in it where he says, look, if you adopt vetting, you're probably going to be sued and it's going to cost you money. And we as a state committee, we're not going to back you up. We've got this whole legal opinion, but nowhere in the document does he say, as the state committee, we are forbidding you from doing vetting because they can't, and they knew it at this time. But the vetting was successful. They, in this document, it says, if you tell people they have to be vetted, they're probably going to sue you. You're going to have all kinds of lawsuits. Nobody did that I know of. Maybe Cindy knows of someone. Nobody sued any of the committee saying, no, not going to do it. Now they went around, they did an end run with the clerks. That's different. We did sue the clerks, but that's a different story. But this acknowledged that they knew they didn't have the authority. But vetting was successful. Vetting did some great things. People started to understand it. There's still some misunderstandings out there and some misinformation about it. But now I think after the delegate issue where they made up rules to try to remove our duly elected delegates to the national convention, I think they realized the power of these county committees. And they had to strip the power from the county committees. And the only way to do that is to strip you of your bylaws and the protections you wrote into your bylaws, to strip you of officers who are grassroots officers. I mean, they could easily look at, I'm a vice chair. They could easily look at my county and say, we're sorry, based on behavioral things and things that we've decided, blah, 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 this person is not eligible, not only to be your vice chair, but to be on your committee. Don't think it won't happen. Once they find out they can get away with it, this is like digital currency. They're going to grade your behavior and let you know what you can do. People are going to think that sounds way out there, but Cynthia can tell you what's already come from this certification of officers.
Yeah, Cindy's got an issue going on in Vernon County, and I can come back to that. Let me pull up that slide. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I get the right one.
Okay.
So, Cynthia, if you want to talk about what's happening in Vernon County, I'll let you address it and see if I can pull it up so it's bigger for everybody to read. So, what's happening in Vernon County?
Nothing great at the moment. So we went through reorganization very early in the morning on Tuesday. And by very early in the morning, I mean like 12:05 a.m. because we had a group of people, supporters of the incumbents who did not want to be vetted and refused to go through it and managed through a crooked appellate court, in my opinion, managed to get back on the ballot. That's a whole other story. So their supporters all filed, and most of them won their seats. We believe that a lot of Democrats came out and cast.
Oh, hang on, Cindy. Very clear. They did not win their seats. They got the most votes cast. That's important.
Exactly. So we have determined, and based on our bylaws, that they're not qualified to hold those seats. According to 3 different statutes that we have, they all require the individuals.
I can pull up those statutes
to be qualified. Yeah. So the first one is 115.609. which says you serve until your successors are elected and qualified. And so we believe that the word qualified does not mean eligible. Eligible is baked into elected. You cannot be on the ballot if you're not eligible. So that's something that, you know, the county clerk theoretically would check right off the bat. So when that language says elected and qualified, qualified points to something else. And we believe that it points to the fact that committees have bylaws, and those bylaws have rules for what it takes to join the committee. So if you look at 613, 115.613,
Right
it
here.
says the qualified man and woman that receive the highest number of votes are the people who will become committee members. And then you go to, so again, qualified. You go to 115.349, and 115.349 deals with the candidate statement. And that candidate statement says, among other things, and it is a sworn statement, you're in front of a notary who's going to notarize that document. So you say that you further declare that if you're nominated and elected, you will qualify. So if I'm running for prosecuting attorney, what are the qualifications to be a prosecuting attorney? The eligibility clause in the statutes just simply says that you have to be a registered voter in the district and the county for a year before you're elected. So obviously, if I was running for prosecuting attorney, there's probably more to being in that position than just being a registered voter and resident in a county and a district for a year. If I want to run for sheriff, probably a little more involved in that as well. If I want to run for a committee position, there's also more involved than just being eligible. If there wasn't, Democrats could come over and take over the Republican committee. Republicans could go over and take over the Democrat committee. So qualified points to the fact that you need to check with the committee and see what's in those bylaws, what the rules are. You know, if I want to join the Elks Club, it's incumbent on me to go to the Elks and say, what are your rules? What does it take to be a part of your organization? I don't expect to just walk in and say, hey guys, I'm an elk now. So
Yeah, almost.
qualified for us includes vetting.
Almost any position in any whether it's a job or whether it's elected official like this, you have to have some qualifications. It's more than just breathing and being alive and being able to walk into, or wheel in if you're in a wheelchair, into a room. So
the people who received more votes than we did are planning to do their own reorganization this Friday night. We did ours because we didn't trust, we had gotten wind of the fact that they were going to try and get onto the committee by doing their own reorganization on Friday. We didn't really trust that information. So we decided that to be safe, we would reorganize at the earliest possible moment. The statutes, and it's 115.621, the statute says that you can reorganize anywhere for the county committee, anywhere between August 20th, which was Tuesday, through August 24th.
Yes.
So we met in my home, our filed elected office holders, and those people who have filed previously but were unopposed. And we decided who we wanted for our officers for the next 2 years. And then at 12:05, we convened our reorganization meeting, 12:05 a.m. on August 20th, and we elected those 4 individuals. As Linda mentioned, for the first time ever, they want you to let them certify those people. There is no place in state statute that allows for that. And they also want you to take care of your bylaws, adopt your bylaws at that same meeting, which is absolutely not in state statute. And then they want the right to approve them first, also not in state statute. So,
and then the state committee is going to come down and back this second committee.
Yes, exactly. So I received an email from Miles Ross midday Tuesday telling me
good old Miles.
Good old Miles, telling me that we were not going to be recognized because, first of all, we held our reorganization meeting outside the statutory parameters. So I don't know in his world when Tuesday morning starts, but in mine, it starts at 12 a.m. midnight, 12:01.
Absolutely.
So we did hold our meeting within the statutory parameters. He also indicated that we violated the statutes by holding it in a private residence. There is nothing in 621 that indicates that you can anything about where you hold it other than it has to be at the county seat. I live in Nevada, that's the county seat.
Okay. Yeah.
It does say that the courthouse shall be made available, but it does not say you have to use it, nor have we ever. So then the final two things that he stated were that myself, who was reelected as chair, and the man who was elected as our vice chair were not committee members because they don't understand the statutes. They don't understand what qualified means or the importance of it. They don't understand much of anything when it comes to the statutes, quite frankly.
No,
So for that reason, we then got wind through Shelley Baldwin's post of the fact that the GOP machine was going to come down here and trample all over us by helping the unqualified individuals go ahead and reorganize and take over the committee. They did this in Benton County back in when the county caucus was getting ready to happen. The same person who is the reorganization chair for this reorganization period was also our congressional district chair. And at the county caucus in Benton County, they falsely told the state chair that the county chair had had a heart attack and couldn't run the caucus.
really?
So Nick Myers sent a letter down and appointing someone else who was a pal of our congressional district chair and somebody that she wanted on the committee. And in fact, our Benton County chair just had a cold. She hadn't suffered a heart attack at all. She had a cold. So they took over the caucus with their own selected individuals, which meant they also were in charge of making sure that the delegates that they wanted at the congressional district convention were elected and sent to the convention. So they tried to cheat and they successfully did so in Benton County. Then they cheated again in May or they tried to strip our delegates in the congressional district caucus. And that was the same woman in charge of that. The room balked at it and approved our delegates, but that was their second attempt to cheat us out of our statutory rights. Then they tried to take it away from the entire grassroots in May at the state convention. And so now they've regrouped and they're coming after the people at ground zero for vetting. If they can get rid of us, they can get rid of every other county committee that causes any trouble for them at all. And Osage County will be on that list, as Linda will.
And not just now, but in the future. Yeah.
So can I throw in a couple other points I really want to call out on that Shelley Baldwin item? There's two things. One, the statutes state that the reorganization meeting will be called by the current chair. That would be Cynthia, thank you. They are not following that. They break the rules that are not convenient for them, and then they try to impose rules they've made up and put in there. At the bottom, and Shelley Baldwin is an elected official, by the way. I didn't know her, but this came, via she posted somewhere public. So there you go. You post in the public world, it's going to get shared. But that last sentence that says the State Republican Committee. Now, I don't know that she speaks for them, but I'd like to know who that is, because I haven't heard from anyone that I know on the state committee that they've been asked to be in Vernon County to conduct this reorganization that is, in our words, illegitimate and completely illegal, because the state chair, the county chair, that would be Cynthia, did not call the meeting. They've already reorganized. Is it just Nick Myers? Is it just Miles so-and-so? Because Miles, as far as I understand, he might be the executive director, but I don't know the hierarchy part. I don't think that puts him on the state committee. And if it's just these lawyers that they tag along and send them in to run this stuff, they're not on the state committee either. So I think it's really important to know who's pushing this from behind. Who are the people who are trying to manipulate the system? Now they're going to turn it around and say, well, these people did their declaration of candidacy. They put it in there, and then the clerk made the decision to put them on the ballot. They have a right, and they got votes, and they got the most votes. But if you jump back to that qualified document, David, and go to that paragraph about election offense for making false statements, that 115-631 section 1 states that and it's a class 1 election offense, which I will point out is a felony, that if you willfully and falsely make any certificate, affidavit, or statement that is required of you, which would be the declaration of candidacy, or in any other manner knowingly furnish false information to an election authority or election official who is engaged in their business of running the election, that becomes a Class 1 felony. It's even worse when you are an attorney and you sign that, because all of those have to be notarized. They are sworn to, subscribed and sworn to. That is an oath. And if you are an attorney and you make that claim, you are an officer of the court and you have basically committed perjury, in my opinion, not a lawyer. But here's the thing. You knew it when you made that statement that you were required to be vetted. You didn't like it. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of things we don't like in life. And I think it's really important that people understand they make up the rules for themselves. But when it comes to this, and there's actually a rule about making false statements, there's actually a rule that the county chair calls the meeting. There's actually a rule that says you have to be qualified and get the highest numbers of votes. All of these things are in statute. What's not in statute is the state committee certifies our officers, the state committee approves our bylaws, the state committee can come into the county and make decisions. That is all made up stuff.
Do they think they can get away with this because they know that if, say, Cindy or the Vernon County Committee takes this issue to court, it would be like the Western District Committee did earlier with the decision, and the appellate court will not find in their favor.
I think that's a concern. I think they think that's exactly what will happen.
And they probably believe it. Here's the point. What happened more recently with those delegates going to the national convention, even up to the hour that morning of the convention when they were trying to get their credentials, word got out and people stood up. David Clements has a fabulous movie out, Let My People Go, and at about the 2-hour mark exactly, he starts talking about Gideon 300. We're trying to get this out to people because it is the public opinion, it is the public outcry that has the most power, more power than even taking this to court. If you start calling your county committees, because here's what I'm telling you, and I've been trying to say to people from the time I found that word certified, you can be passive, you can sit back, but here's the image that goes in my mind. We're all watching TV and we have an image of Donald Trump being shot with blood coming out of his ear going, fight, fight, fight. And the people are sitting there with popcorn on their lap, watching it every time it comes on a rerun going, yeah, yeah, fight, fight, fight. But they don't get out of the damn recliner. They sit there.
And let's be real, because what this is a centralization of power. The central committees and things on the local level are the decentralized aspects of how our government works. And the state committee taking this over is central. It's communism. I'm sorry. That's what it is.
This is the Shah. This is the Shah taking over Iran.
Yeah.
I mean,
look at this Shelley Baldwin post. She's an elected official and she makes the comment in there that says the county, where is it? The county.
The local committee is subordinate to the state committee.
Exactly.
So the made up rules of the local committee do not count. That's a quote from this woman.
Yeah, from an elected official who probably doesn't understand that when you get elected, you're also considered a public servant, not a public lord or lady. You are a public servant. You serve the people. These county committees, it starts for people who don't understand. You vote as a voter in your county. You elect your party. If you're Republicans, you elect the Republican Party. The Democrats elect a Democrat Party. They're supposed to work together to make sure we have honest elections within our counties. They then send delegates and members up to the legislative district, the senatorial district, the congressional district. You don't have to really understand that, but we send representatives from our county committee up to those levels. They don't just come in from vapor land somewhere. They come out of our county committees up to, then we elect members to the state Republican committee. It all started at the county level. And then the state Republican committee will elect a state chair whose job is to make sure that he keeps everything coordinated. So all these counties that are out there doing their business paying their own way, doing things that work for their county, have the resources and the information they need to then be connected to the national RNC. That's what they're supposed to do. It is not their job to come down and dictate to us at the county level. And the minute you let them in the door, whether it's in Vernon County, I don't care if you believe in vetting or not, you let them in the door to do this power grab, and you have lost your ability to manage your committee at the county level, because we're about to train election judges for the election, watchers and challengers. We're putting information out. That's the duty of the county committee. I guarantee you, when they start tasting that power that they're going to get from doing this stuff, they're going to start telling us, oh no, you don't get to do that part. That's all in statute from the 1980s. That's not something new. That's not made up rules that some dingbat, person that works as is supposed to be a public servant is like, read the statutes. I would like to send her the statutes because I don't think she knows where to find them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gretchen and I were talking about this on my way in, and I'm sorry if I interrupted anyone. But if the Republican Party is able to manage this, a takeover of all the central committees, and eliminate the central committees, basically their entire function of bringing up newly elected people, the central committees, the Republican Party ceases to exist. The grassroots will be disenfranchised completely. You will get
they're taking over the vetting, aren't they? Isn't that really what they're doing?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that this local group wants control of the committee. They want to kill vetting, and then they don't care what happens with the committee itself. And so when Linda was talking about the hierarchy, and it's starting with the county committees, for the rest of those districts, the senatorial district, the congressional district, the judicial district, those are comprised of the chairs and the vice chairs of the county committees and the county legislative districts. So if you can control the county committees, you're now controlling a big part of the votes that go into the senatorial district reorganization, which is where the state committee man and woman come from. So now if you can get rid of the grassroots counties officers that are causing you trouble, you can also pretty well assure yourself that that state committee is going to be made up of RINOs and not grassroots conservatives. So this is an orchestrated attempt to take over the Republican Party by the establishment. They got a hold of our vetting manual that we teach at the REPAC-MO conferences. And I'm confident that's why all of a sudden, for the first time ever, they want to be able to approve those bylaws before they go into effect, because they know a lot of the counties are beefing up their bylaws with the kind of teeth that we have in ours.
Yeah, they want to be able to bypass the Republican Party. They want to be able to put people like Kehoe in without actually needing to run him by any of you guys. They don't need the Republican Party. They just need the R, and all they need is the campaign ads. And so they need you guys to be quiet and shut up and go away. They don't need the central committees. They don't need the local politics. They just need the money. They need the governor's office, and they need the lieutenant governor, and they don't need the rest of it. No. And that's all that matters.
And can I add, hang on, Cindy, I just want to add one thing. I spoke to Dan Schultz with Precinct Strategy about this when it had to do with the delegates to the national convention. Dan Schultz, for any of you who understand precinct strategy, for over 10 years, he has been teaching that these positions, we call them committee men and women in some places, they're precinct officers in different states, but he saw the power of that level of the party. And he, for 10 years, taught, and over the past few years, it's taken off and we started filling those positions. The establishment was happier when we were just dumb and satisfied to say, I voted, I got an I voted sticker, I did my duty. That's right. That's all I have to do for an election is I have to vote. No, he taught to get in there. In the last 2 years, they figured out that we were taking control back of these parties. We were turning it back to America first. This is as much of an attack. Nick Myers did not post anything that showed him as a Trump supporter until Trump won the primary. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I'm a Trump supporter. He's not, I don't believe him to be America first at all.
He's a Mike Kehoe supporter. And he
Well,
knows that next year we are supporting Jason Sossman to be the next conservative grassroots vetted state chair, and Mark Anthony Jones to be the next executive director. And Mark Anthony, having just done one of our Repack Mo conferences, told the audience, the packed room, that next year, if that leadership team gets in place, vetting is going statewide. If you want to run with the Republican Party, you will go through vetting, and if you don't, you can file with another party. For him, it's a hill to die on. And the state GOP establishment machine knows that.
Yeah, this
David,
is
will
their
you?
desperate
It
fight
is.
to finish this before January. If they lose this, if they can't get control of the party, they are out. And
Yep.
there's billions of dollars at stake. And they have to win because they're the people that are financing them, that are behind this, who are patting them on the head and making them happy. They are desperately pushing them and prodding them and making these new apps for you guys to certify.
Yeah.
That's what's
No.
going on. Sorry, go
Make the
ahead,
David,
Linda.
grassroots
could
sit
you?
down and shut
Yeah.
up.
David, could
Sorry.
you put up that other, the one with that from today with the warning that I put out? It was one of the ones that you showed.
Yes, ma'am.
This.
So this
So
one.
this, yeah. If you, this is what I put up today. Is at the top of it. I think there won't be one above it. If you can
I
scroll
think
up. No?
I think I might have to close
Okay,
this
it's
one out
okay.
and go up
Oh, there
here.
you go. So Cindy is talking about the fact that it's not a secret that we are looking to change things next January when a new state chair would be elected, whether Nick Myers runs again or somebody like him runs for that position. But I am telling you, if you think that we're going to be able to just wade through these 4 months while people sit quietly in their easy chair eating that popcorn, you're wrong. It's not going to happen. And then we're going to fix it in January. They have started this power grab. They are not going to let this go easily to get us to January. We just think that if we just play by the rules, which we are, but if we just go along and okay, they want us to certify, it's no big deal. They're not going to come to my county. But you think we're going to get to January and they're not going to change another rule that's going to keep us out. This is a power grab. They are not going to let it happen. And nobody is going to be able to step up in January and save us from this. We are going to go through it. We have our fight going on to make sure Trump gets in office, but this at our state level is as critical for Missouri, and you can't sit this one out. You have to step up. You have to get your voice heard, and you got to start posting this stuff out there and tag the Missouri GOP on everything that you do. Call them, tell them. Because unless they hear from the people and they know they're getting slammed, look, and when we were dealing with the delegates, every county was sending a letter saying, we're calling for your resignation. The guy never resigns. No matter how many times you tell him to resign, he doesn't resign. Those letters don't really do much. He probably just has them, maybe he starts his fireplace with them or something. I don't know what, but people have to step up and let their voices be heard.
And it's important to remember too, that when we talk about the state committee, we're really talking about leadership in the state committee. We're talking about Nick Myers, Miles Ross, Carla Young, the Missouri Republican Party, the MRSC, the Missouri Republican State Committee, is very rarely consulted on any of this. The executive committee is illegally making the decisions, or Nick Myers is making them directly. Their own bylaws say that the executive committee can only make recommendations to the full committee. So, the full committee is not being consulted.
Yeah, it's laws for thee, but not for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is a mess, and they keep doing it again and again. This seems like it's been happening since May 4th. What, every 3-4 weeks there's been a major crisis within the Missouri GOP, and
It sure feels like it.
they've been causing every single one of these events.
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and stop the share.
What can anybody talk about what is going on in Greene County? Because I heard there was all kinds of crazy stuff going on there. I don't know, David, if you know what's going on there.
I haven't heard. I missed those details. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I all I've seen are just some bits and pieces, but there was apparently a big kerfuffle the secretary was running the meeting. They weren't following Robert's Rules of Order. They weren't doing things according to the rules. And as a result, they weren't able to change their chair, who is establishment.
Okay.
Well, ladies, I appreciate it. If there's anything else you want to add, I would love to give you a chance to share a quick word before we end. I always appreciate having everybody on. Cindy, I think this is the first time I've been able to get an interview with you, but thank you for coming on.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. All of you.
Well, absolutely. So give everybody a last word.
I would just like to say I work with both the Cause of America for Missouri and Cause of America National Team, which is a Mike Lindell organization. Mike shaved his mustache today and is undercover at the DNC. But we are doing an alliance with True the Vote to watch Election Day crime and fraud. They have an app, and Cause of America has a Frank Social app. We're going to be, I'm going to have a war room here in Missouri to keep an eye on stuff. If you're interested at all, go to causeofamerica.org, click on the Get Involved, send your information in so we can connect with you. We are looking for people who want, and if you happen to be hearing this from another state, Cause of America has teams in all the states. So please step up and get involved, because that's how we're going to be able to stop this kind of stuff.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Cindy, do you have a last word?
I've done a couple of different interviews on Cause of America. I appreciate the opportunity to get the message out. I always get calls afterwards and emails from people from around the country who are looking for help with vetting themselves. We have REPAC-MO has a website, repacmo.com. You can go there, sign up for our emails, get more involved. We are here to support the county committees, to train them and educate them on all the different things that the state committee would like you to not know. And we just finished a round of conferences, and we'll be doing another round this fall. That will involve election preparation with Linda's help for the November elections. We're going to be looking at opposition research and how to get involved in that, and also an introduction to legislation and following bills with that occur in Jeff City. So
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. And Gretchen, a last word for you.
Nothing, just listen to the ladies.
All right. Yes. It's always
They
good to
know
have
what they're
people on.
talking about.
It's always good to have experts on. I appreciate it so much.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.